together of BioWare and LucasArts again, I think is a reinforcement of what has been a shared heritage.
Star Wars: The Knights of the Old Republic was a huge hit. It was a big thing for BioWare. I mean, probably one of the most moving things that we've ever had was to step out in front of the Game Developers Conference and get the Game of the Year award from our peers for that game.
And unlike Knights of the Old Republic 1 and Knights of the Old Republic 2, this will take you to a place that's deeper and broader and introduce you to more characters than any of the other games ever created by both LucasArts and BioWare.
Star Wars: The Old Republic is really a chance for us to create the ultimate Star Wars game. It's a game that allows you to live in the Star Wars universe.
We've wanted to build a massively multiplayer game at BioWare for probably over a decade now, and of course our experience working with LucasArts on the Knights of the Old Republic franchise is a natural combination. It's something, you know, we think is just a perfect fusion to build an MMO in the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic space. And what we're doing is we're taking some of the best-of-breed features from other MMOs, exploration and combat progression, and we're not losing any of those. Instead, what we're doing is we're adding a fourth pillar, the pillar of story and character.
This game takes place in the period of the Old Republic, thousands of years before the rise of Darth Vader. This is a rich period in the Star Wars lore where Sith and Jedi are constantly at one another, and there's constant conflict.
So what you're about to see is some early pre-production footage. It's very exclusive for you, the fans. We haven't shown it to anyone else yet, and we're very excited about it.
The MMO industry in general has been trying to solve story in our games for a long time. And I think with TOR, what we're doing is we're putting story at the forefront of your experience, where every one of your decisions is impactful to your end goal and your character progression.
And part of the story thing that's very interesting from our perspective is adding choice. Typically, online games don't have a lot of choice. You do whatever's in front of you. But in this game, you get to choose to do things.
A huge dramatic choice comes up. You're sitting there looking at it and realizing you can't save it and reload it and say, hey, I wonder what would have happened the other direction. These are real choices that are going to make real impact on the story and where your narrative goes that you have to live with forever.
For the first time in an MMO, every one of your choices is going to matter, and all your decisions will guide your path towards the light or the dark side.
Companion characters have always been a huge part of BioWare games, and they're also a big part of the Star Wars mythos. And so we felt that they were going to be very important to our game. And what the companion character is going to allow for is it's going to allow us to tell stories in a different manner, to allow for a player to have another voice before he makes a decision. His companion character will actually be his moral compass.
You know, there's a lot of things that, you know, the companion characters also have their own stories, their own interests, and things that you can help them pursue. Or, you know, depending on which side of the Force you sit on, you can like help them and support them, or you can manipulate them. Rather than approach the game, Star Wars: The Old Republic, from a harsh realism perspective, we wanted to create what we call stylized realism.
We went with stylized realism because we kind of want to have a timeless quality to our art. We wanted to essentially be something that could fit into any era. We also wanted to be very heroic.
We didn't want to look like anything else that was out there. It was a time where the next-gen games were all hitting, and as great as they look, they all start to look alike because they all look like reality. So it was really about choosing something that was going to be our own.
It's going to be really exciting to be part of the online community for this game, because this game is so huge. It's got such a giant scope. This game has got more content than every BioWare game that we've created put together.
We're really focused on fast-paced, action-oriented combat, and we're working very hard to make sure that everybody, no matter your playstyle, will have something to do in the Old Republic.
We have a lot of great stuff that's still in the pipe we haven't shown yet. We've kind of alluded to, teased a bit, but when we get to show it, I think you'll understand why we're so excited about the Old Republic at BioWare, LucasArts, and EA. I think it's going to be the best thing BioWare's ever done. It's our biggest project, and we're really excited about it.
Storytelling is a key component of the games from LucasArts and BioWare because what it really provides is greater immersion for the player.
It's important for this game in particular, The Old Republic, because we're really trying to add a fourth pillar to the MMO space. And the way we're doing that is through incredible characters you get to interact with and story with consequences that really affect the world around you.
The story that unfolds is the story you create. You are actually creating your own personal Star Wars saga.
Star Wars is a classic story. It is the classic hero's journey. You've got a young man going out into the strange. He's experiencing amazing things that nobody else has seen. He's learning about the battle that everyone has between the light side of themselves and the dark side of themselves. And these are classic themes that appear again and again in Star Wars, and are themes that appeal to everyone.
There's iconic moments, like moments of betrayal, moments of salvation, all these things that are really impactful, and it's that kind of imaginary but believable world. We try and capture all those in our games. We try and take that same kind of concept of, hey, you're making the ultimate decision. Is it salvation or is it destruction? And, you will have seen something maybe similar in the Star Wars movies, but we're bringing it to life in the game.
The story timeline in The Old Republic takes place hundreds of years after KOTOR, but still thousands of years before the era of the rise of Darth Vader in the movies, which everyone knows. And that gives us a really fertile, kind of unexplored part of the Star Wars timeline to work with. There's lots of Jedi around, lots of Sith forces around, so that gives us a lot of flexibility to create adventures for players to really get into.
Everyone wants to have a lightsaber. That's a lot of kids' dreams, to have that lightsaber, to use the Force. And we wanted to be in an era where it makes sense for there to be thousands of Jedi and thousands of Sith in the universe.
This is a time period where the original Sith have re-emerged. They have come back and surprise attacked the Republic. The Republic was not ready for it. They got pushed back very strongly. The Sith attacked Coruscant. They blew up the Jedi Temple and then pushed them into a really disadvantageous treaty. The Treaty of Coruscant has been holding for a little while, but is already fraying at the edges, and everything is very, very tense. We are not talking Cold War, we are talking constant border and skirmish war when the game begins that is only holding because nobody is quite ready to say, okay, let's throw the entire galaxy back into conflict again.
In addition to that, that broad story arc, you'll have separate stories for each class that you play in the game. So of all the classes, they'll each have their own separate, huge storyline to pursue.
Not only do you say, hey, I have a bounty hunter fantasy, so I'm going to play a bounty hunter instead of playing a Sith, but now within that, you're going to have as much choice in that one class as you would have had in an entire BioWare game before.
Because every single class gets its own story, and that's a story personal to the player. So he gets to have his own Star Wars trilogy. Whether he's a bounty hunter, whether he's a Sith, whether he's a Jedi, or one of the many other classes we're developing, each of those classes has a completely unique story.
There'll be moments where you'll have ethical decisions, whether to kill somebody or not, or you'll have a master who challenges you, who used to be your friend, or a companion that you're playing with who doesn't like what you're doing and may decide to betray you.
These are fully engaged characters, so when you're talking to someone, you literally, the camera works just like a movie, and if they're getting emotional, they're clearly getting emotional, and everything makes sense. And as a player, seeing that is going to be something that will be very surprising to people, because it's something that it's really at the level we're doing never really been contemplated. Actually having this true, engaging, long-term, hundreds of hours cinematic experience.
You really want you to feel the player to have that emotional connection with the world, with the universe, and feel like there's another reason to play that keeps pulling them along long term, so they feel like they have a reason to continue. Throughout it all, they feel like they're the actor and the director of the experience at the same time, at the center of this epic storyline in the Star Wars universe.